There's no denying it. The best damn band in the land. Woo! Right here in Ohio. Welcome to week 2 of Buckeye Preview, everybody. I, as always, am your host, Tyler Carey. It's good to be back for the second week of the year. Good thing the Buckeyes were able to pull out that win against Akron. Got all my OSU stuff set up again at my desk. And for this week, USA! USA! You gotta have the flag. Gonna get serious. As we all know, 10 years ago this Sunday, we were reminded that some people in this world just have no respect, even if they aren't Michigan fans. Okay, I just want to clarify right now so I don't get any nasty comments. I am not comparing Michigan to Al-Qaeda. That is way over the top. But let's hope that something like that we saw 10 years ago, never do we see it ever again. God bless America. Well, as I mentioned before, Ohio State was able to win 42-0 in their first game of the year over the Akron Zips. I predicted 37-6. They did better. Thank you, Ohio State. And Luke Fickell was able to get that win in his first game as Ohio State coach. Not too bad. Joe Bosman looked pretty good as a starting quarterback. Braxton Miller even looked good coming off the bench. We'll see how far that battle leads, but I think right now we can feel pretty comfortable with Bosman as the #1 quarterback. Let's get you caught up before we get to the preview. Let's get you caught up on some of the other action that happened around Division 1A college football this past weekend. Staying in the area, Kent State traveled to Tuscaloosa and was hammered 48-7 by Alabama. Well, gotta feel bad for Kent State, but what did you expect? Two of the marquee games of last week, Boise State down in Atlanta pretty much handled Georgia 35-21. If Boise State has not earned the country's respect, I don't know what more they can do. When are you going to get on the Boise bandwagon, people? They are for real. The biggest game of the week, Oregon losing to LSU 40-27. The SEC, other than that Boise game, still getting those huge wins. The biggest shockers of the week, defending national champion Auburn had to score 2 late touchdowns just to get past Utah State by 4 points. Gotta think it's going to be a tough year for Auburn, but they extend their winning streak to 16 games. That is the longest in the country. Over in South Bend, oh my, Notre Dame losing to South Florida 23-20 in a game that was marred by several lightning delays. Notre Dame doubled USF's yardage output, yet turned the ball over 5 times in the loss. Over in the state up north, Michigan beat Western Michigan 34-10 in Brady Hoke's debut as Wolverines head coach. That game was actually called late in the third quarter due to lightning, something that also happened down in Huntington, West Virginia with Marshall and the Mountaineers. And with high school football, over here in Twinsburg, the Tigers beating the Nordonia Knights 38-7. Felt good getting our first one of the year, and I gotta tell you, we were better than Nordonia in every facet of the game. On the field, and even with the band, we sounded better, we looked better, and hey, you gotta love the flag. It's always providing a little bit of spark to the halftime routine. Well, now that I've given you the scores, let's preview this week's opponent, the Toledo Rockets. The Toledo Rockets began playing football in 1917 and have an all-time record of 473, 394, and 24. They joined the Mid-American Conference in 1951 and have won the conference 10 times, most recently in 2004. Several notable coaches have headed the Rockets, including current Alabama coach Nick Saban for 1 season, and notable players include defensive back and Twinsburg alumnus Kelly Herndon. Toledo currently plays their home games in the Glass Bowl, opened in 1936. One more thing to add. Tim Beckman, who is the current coach at Toledo entering his 3rd season, was an ex-Ohio State assistant under Jim Tressel. He's one of a few ex-Tressel assistants to get head coaching jobs elsewhere in college football. Now, this version of the Toledo Rockets in 2011 is certainly much better than this year's Akron Zips team. They return 18 starters from a team that last year went 8-5, went to the Little Caesars Pizza Bowl. That's just a terrible name for a bowl game. In Detroit, and they lost by 2. They are picked as one of the favorites in the MAC West Division this season. And a lot of times last year, when they won games, they would do it by outscoring their opponents with their high-powered offense. That, unfortunately for them, will not work against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, I think you all noticed, if you watched the game, Ohio State only held Akron to about 100 yards of offense in last week's victory, and no points. Now again, it was just Akron. And they're not 30-point favorites this week. Vegas recognizes that Toledo is a much better team, and that is why Ohio State is only favored by about 20 points. And a big reason why many people were turned off to the defense this year of Ohio State was because they only had 4 returning starters. But they are as good as ever. Many of these guys who are quote-unquote new starters, like Etienne Sabino, Storm Klein, 2 of the linebackers, and Dominique Clark, a cornerback, they may as well be starters. Jim Tressel had so many defensive rotations while he was at Ohio State that guys would almost split the snaps. They would be on the field so much, even as backups, that they would get the much-needed game experience and have the opportunity to be under pressure situations and make big plays against the big-name teams. So for these guys who are new to just starting the game in that position, it really doesn't make much of a difference. They already know what has to be done. They certainly have the ability if they're at Ohio State, and they are ready to just step right in and take the torch from the guys who have held the Ohio State defense, known as the Silver Bullets, down for so many years. That is why I don't think Toledo will have much of a chance this Saturday, because OSU's defense, as it has been for so many years, will just be that good. Thank you for that. Now let's get to this week's classic game. The first time ever that Toledo and Ohio State met back at the Horseshoe in 1998.
Wiley behind Keller. Pitch goes to Wiley. Cuts it back across the 25 to 30. He's got some running room. Midfield, 45, 30, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Michael Wiley. 76. Jermaine upstairs. Fade pattern. Boston. Touchdown, Ohio State. It's all over you. You start second-guessing yourself every time. Just like that time right there, another interception. It's Diggs. Niall Diggs at the 10, fighting his way, knocked out of bounds at about the 5-yard line. This time, Lindstrom gets off a beauty. Boston backing up to his own 20. Bonnie gets it at the 15-yard line. And he's got a lane. David Boston cuts it back to the outside. Boston at the midfield stripe. Finally lunges forward. And is Garcia play action. He wants to go for the home run ball. Going down, he's got Reggie Germany. Germany's second touchdown of the day, his second touchdown as a Buckeye. And Garcia has to feel pretty good about that one. Just speed. Ohio State showing it.
2 years ago, those two teams met for the second time in history in Brown Stadium in Cleveland. It was technically a home game for Toledo, but most of the fans were Buckeye fans, of course. Led by the quarterback who will not be named, number 2, Jackass. The Buckeyes won 38-0. And in those 2 games, as you might notice, Toledo has been outscored by Ohio State 87-0. Pretty interesting. Now let's get to my prediction. It should be noted, and I forgot to mention this last week, that with Ohio State's win over Akron, the Buckeyes have not lost to another team from inside the state of Ohio in 9 decades. It has been that long. Of course, other than maybe Cincinnati a couple of years ago, there have not been that many teams to challenge Ohio State as the #1 team in the state of Ohio. And I don't think Toledo is going to be the team to break that 9-decade-long winning streak. I will say, Toledo is a very good football team. I believe that they are one of the favorites to win the MAC. they probably could win the MAC or at least get to a bowl game. But with Ohio State's defense what it is, and even in the past, Toledo has had pretty good offense and has just gotten slammed by that Buckeye Silver Bullet attack. There's a reason that Ohio State pays Toledo hundreds of thousands of dollars to come play here. We want to slaughter them. And that is what I think they will do by a score of about 35-10. About that. Not a big slaughter. And I think that Toledo is finally going to break that scoreless streak because their offense is just that good. But maybe just a late touchdown. I don't really think the Buckeyes are going to be challenged much in this game. Well, that about wraps it up. Let's hope OSU can pull out a win. Let's hope Twinsburg can pull out a win down in Lancaster this week. Unfortunately, I won't be there. I'm not driving 3 hours. I'm sorry. Still, for Buckeye Preview, I'm Tyler Carey. God bless America. Go Bucks!